and everyone. Happy Tuesday to each and everyone. Naimbaga bigat kada kayo amin apo. Magandang umaga po. Buenas dias. Bienvenido. Welcome to each and everyone. To all our friends who have been with us since day one up to this very day. Again, agyaman kami unay. We are very thankful for your support in this endeavor of CHED Regional Office 1. Wow, I know we have waited for this session again after a few days of rest, but not actually rest, but focusing on our office works. But again, we are very happy and privileged to again host this special session of our teen webinar series, of course, under the auspices of CHED Regional Office 1 here live from the city of San Fernando, La Union. Again, I would like to give you an update, friends. As of now, we now have 5,600 subscribers in our YouTube channel. That's CHED Regional Office 1. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do not allow this day to end without you clicking the subscribe button so you can be updated with the latest trends and issues and concerns which CHED can give you answers and solutions to. And also, we would like to acknowledge our 23,000 followers in our Facebook page. That's CHED Region 1. I know because of this pandemic, we have been spending a lot of time in the internet, and majority of our time for the whole day or even night, we are in Facebook. So if you do so, please click the like button in our Facebook page so that again, you can be updated with our trends and updates here from CHED Regional Office 1. So please keep the numbers increasing, keep the likes and subscriptions coming in. Inform your friends, inform your colleagues, inform your friends in the social media to like and follow us so that we can make our lives happier and better by being updated through information that we have. And of course, as our custom, and I know you've been waiting for this for quite some time, the news is we will be issuing e-certificates for you. So please tune in. Please stay with us today until the end of our session this afternoon. Again, of course, the e-certificates will be given to you if you would be able to answer our feedback form. And after answering the feedback form, give us a few hours or days to provide you with your e-certificate, which is very important because because of pandemic, we cannot allow things to stop. Learning never ends and education should continue. That's why at CHED Region 1 and CHED in general, we learn as one. All right. Dear friends, in the last session of our teen webinar series, we have discussed the challenges and at the same time opportunities that we need to embrace as we enter the world of the new normal as an effect of COVID-19 pandemic. We have heard from the sharing of our resource persons in our past sessions, based from their personal and professional experiences, the manner to which they have reshaped their educational perspectives and at the same time redesigned their curricula to fit the call of the times. It's not an easy task. It's a daunting task. But despite this being challenging and despite this titanic task that we are faced with, being together, journeying together will make it easier for all of us. Today, as we conduct our executive session of our teen webinar series, we are again very privileged to have with us experts and persons who are much worthy to be called leaders in the real sense of the word. Why? Because of their genuine examples of servant leadership amidst the challenges of the present and future conditions we are in today. So dear friends, we are very much excited to journey again with you today, wherever you are in the Philippines, wherever you are in the part of the globe. Let us again join hands and journey together this day. And so, Let us acknowledge first and foremost the blessings and presence of the Almighty God by thanking Him for the many graces and blessings we have received despite our unworthiness. We thank Him for this wonderful day. We thank Him for all the things that we have received. We thank Him for all that we have. Please join us as we pray together through this audiovisual presentation with the Philippine Master Singers.
Forgive our sins and heal our wounds.
What a beautiful way to start the day, right? We say thank you, Lord, for everything. All right, dear friends, before we continue, I would like to acknowledge our different viewers from the different parts of the Philippines. Later, I'll be mentioning the region or the particular place where you are from. Just keep on posting your comments so we can see them. And at the same time, we would like to acknowledge our target audience for today. We have our regional directors and unit chiefs of our regional line agencies here in Region 1, our school heads, presidents, vice presidents, deans of the various higher education institutions, not only here in Region 1, but in the entire country. And of course, those who are with us, whether you're a student or a professional or just staying at home, again, I'd like to welcome you in our executive session for our teen webinar series. Today, we are having this session particularly for our leaders, not only in education, but in the different or various organizations where leaders play very important part in the shaping and reshaping of the Philippines and of the generation, not only of the present, but of the next to come. All right, dear friends, at this point in time, I would like to inform you that we have with us our OIC Regional Director here in CHED RO1, who has been inspiring us, who is our motivation in conducting this webinar series for all of you. So, dear friends, please join me in welcoming our OIC Director for here in CHED Regional Office 1 for his welcome message. We have Dr. Rogelio T. Galera Jr.
We are facing enormous challenges in education as we see a clear future brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. But as educational managers, we will never be turned around by this virus. We will continue educating our youth, whatever it takes. This is a time where everyone is invited to innovate, a time where all of us are encouraged to think of new ways in continuing educational service despite the limitations that we face. Student profiling tells us that we have varying types of students' connectivity. All of you, my dear administrators, share the same sentiments about our students who lack technology and internet to be able to move to online learning. Students with sufficient technology and internet may come in a lot more prepared as online learning may be efficiently administered to them. Of course, without a question of effectiveness of this modality, we feel that this immediate solution will certainly help in filling the gap. However, we need to cross a wider bridge for our students without technology and internet. Creativity is the name of the game. We cannot allow students to be left out nor penalize them for their inability to join online classes. We need to act immediately to help them. Inclusivity implies that regardless of the limitations, we, as educators, will continue to strive to provide the appropriate means and support to them. We cannot have a perfect system for now, but we can always chase for that one ideal arrangement where, regardless of technology and connectivity, our students will be able to learn as one. Completely aware, I know that we have been very comfortable in what we do prior to COVID-19. Hence, this transition is swamped with many questions and uncertainties. We have been comfortable following the same formula. Thus, experimenting for a new one is certainly a struggle. Hasn't life been a trial and error? We succeed when we continue to try and learn from our mistakes. In science, we keep experimenting and trying until we prove our hypothesis. As educators, therefore, we cannot have a one-size-fits-all policy at the moment, but a customized fit-for-purpose system. We need to realize that the old school we are all aware of and comfortable about might no longer work post-pandemic. We need to design a formula that is fluid and lasting, help our teachers deliver the lessons in an entirely different setting through flexible learning, and redirect them as not just implementers of curriculum, but as designers of learning. To be able to start this new journey we are all heading to, it is important to remember these three things: passion, energy, and spirit. The best educators keep the fire of passion for teaching and learning alive and burning, protecting the fire from anything that could weaken its flames. Good teachers always find enthusiastic ways to motivate learners, get more interested to learn. Teachers who are passionate in teaching make learning interesting, exciting, and relevant. In the same manner, passion requires energy. Energy fuels our passion for education to move towards our desired goals. Energy in education requires commitment not only to transfer learning but also to create co-creators of learning. Bloom's taxonomy as a proof tells us that creating is in the peak of learning where students can develop new concepts, products, or points of view. Technology helps us realize this reality. Ergo, as teachers of the 21st century, we do not only teach to transfer learning, but we teach to create creators of learning. Passion and energy build the spirit. We oftentimes hear the cliche, that's the spirit, but what does it imply, especially for us in the education sector? The phrase tells us that things are doing well and things are working right. Therefore, using our passion and energy for the cause of education and in embracing the demands of the new normal as innovations for innovation and relevance, we can keep our tracks right and uplift our spirits to keep soaring high amidst raging winds. As educators, we shape the future. The future has come, the future is now. Education as a concept is constantly evolving. Teachers must also undergo the same process. No technology can ever replace teachers unless teachers allow such wild imagination to happen. The extinction of teachers is not impossible. The obvious ingredients are complacency, mediocrity, narrow mindedness, and refusal to adopt changes. It is our duty then, as educational managers, to keep that passion, energy, and spirit burning among our teachers and the people we serve in our respective academic community. As we again gather virtually for the executive session of our webinar series, let us journey together to our incoming world of the new normal in education, not only to have a glimpse, but to have a taste and touch of what it means to be educators under the new normal. We are honored to be guided by our expert resource speakers who will be properly introduced later. So, let us allow ourselves to be filled with inspiration, encouragement, and hope. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Thank you very much, Sir JR, who is also here with us in the studio right now. Thank you for those warm words, not only of welcome, but of inspiration and challenge to always improve and embrace the new culture given to us by this new normal. Friends, before we continue, I would like to acknowledge our friends viewing us from Sulu, from Leyte, from Bacolod. We have our friends in Laguna, Surigao del Sur, Agusan del Sur, our friends in NCR. Of course, we have seen the comments coming from the president of Mariano Marcos State University in Lawag, Ilocos Norte, Dr. Shirley Agrupis. Hello, ma'am. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for informing the MMSU unit to be with us also. We have seen their comments in the comment section. We also have with us the newly installed president of Binalatongan Community College in San Carlos City in Pangasinan. Hello, Dr. Macrina Kahala. And our friends from St. Louis College here in La Union, we have Dr. Maria Lourdes Almujuela. And our friends from Pangasinan State University and from FINMA Yupang, Dagupan, we have Dean Joseph Mejia of the Graduate School. Welcome po at marami pong salamat sa inyong pagtutok sa ating executive session ngayong umaga. Robin Sharma, a writer from Canada, once said, "Anyone can lead when the plan is working, but the best lead happens when the plan falls apart. Sounds really intriguing. How do we see leaders leading in the midst of crisis? Or better yet, may I ask you, what does it take to be a leader in the new normal? Dear friends, to introduce our first resource speaker, we have with us our education supervisor 2 here from CHED R1, Mr. Arnold V. Ancheta, to do the honors.
Thank you very much, JP, for introducing me. Good morning to all the stakeholders of Commission on Higher Education. Our speaker this morning is an educator, organizational development practitioner, leadership coach, and lawyer with extensive professional experience in public sector strategic and reform management. She holds a Master in Public Management from the Joint Program of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, and the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. She also completed her Master in National Security Administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines. And she earned her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Bachelor of Laws at the University of the Philippines. She has served as Assistant Secretary for Personnel at the Department of National Defense and also as Assistant Secretary at the Department of Labor and Employment. She is a member of the core faculty of the Ateneo School of Government and serves as a subject matter expert for the Career Executive Service Board's Leadership Development Program. Anthonette earning the distinction to be the first and only recipient of a prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Men Award for HRD in Government Service in the Philippines. From 2007 to January 2020, she served as Executive Director of the CESB, transforming the key programs on leadership selection, training, and development for the higher civil service. Since February 2020, she serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board. It is my honor and prestige to present to you our speaker this morning, no other than Attorney Maria Anthonette C. Velasco Allones.
Good morning!
Good
Kamusta
morning.
kayo? Parang hindi kita narinig, sir.
Alright. Attorney, magandang umaga po
Ayan.
ulit. No?
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me? Well?
Alright. Okay po.
Okay.
Attorney,
Okay.
now, giving you the floor. Our audience and even us here in Shadow One are very much excited for your sharing po today.
Thank you very much. And before I start, I would like to thank Sir Arnold. And nainggit ako sa kanya, yung background niya, may mga halaman, totoong halaman. 'Di ba? Sabi ni OIC RD Galera, kailangan may energy. The real plants, no, they are also a source of positive energy. So, thank you, Sir Arnold, for that introduction at for sharing yung mga halaman na yan. Pag nadaan ako dun sa La Union, iuwi ko yan dito sa Manila. And my pleasure, no, to join all of you. Gusto na pressure ako. Narinig ko kayo na sabi mo, 23,000 yung ating followers online, aside from those who are actually in this platform, no, for today's webinar. So, kumusta si RD dyan? Okay naman kayo?
Si RD po ay kasama namin sa loob ng studio, ma'am. Talagang tutok na tutok.
Okay.
Hands-on po.
Sige. So, sana may distancing kayo, ha? At
Meron po.
may masks? Meron. Very good. Okay, sige. I'm going to share my screen as I prepared a few slides. Hindi pala few, no? Madami pala. Hindi lang pala to few. Ready na ba kayo? Oh, ayan. Teka, ha? Gagawin ko siyang full para makita natin yung mas maayos. Okay. So, can you see my slides?
Yes, attorney. Clear po?
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So, yung title ninyo, Transitioning the Education Ecosystem, pero nakalagay in the new normal. And then I changed it, syempre, di ba? Hindi talaga ako masunurin minsan. I changed it, transitioning the education ecosystem to the next normal. Why? Ay nako, yung new normal today, tomorrow, it will be different. So the future of education leadership changes every day as we wake up, as we go through our daily struggles and challenges, as we face new adversities in trying to innovate how we educate, how we deliver the education goods to our learners, our constituents. Kaya yan ha, medyo I'm not starting on a good note. Diba sabi niya, ano ba naman ito? Talagang next normal pala, paiba-iba, no? Paiba-iba. Next, gano'n. Pero may new normal na tayo today. May development. Next, di ba? Next na naman na new normal. So, yan. That is just to situate everybody on this new and next normal thing, no? But personally, I thought that this brief conversation with you this morning, I would like to focus on rebooting. O, di ba? Marami tayong naririnig ngayon. Restart, parang mag-rebound. At sa akin naman ito, education, leadership, reboot. Di ba? Talagang reboot dapat. Tingnan nyo naman ha. Dapat in our brains, meron tayong parang hidden compass dyan that navigates, helps us navigate through the challenges, through the path of leading our education institutions to the goal that we have set for ourselves and the members of our community. Why do we need to reboot? Well, for one, ito naman, alam na nating lahat, our world has radically changed. That's why I like this photo eh. The entire globe wearing a mask. No? So, in a way, we are also looking ahead at a masked future. We don't know what lies ahead exactly. There is always that uncertainty. And therefore, that makes imperative all the more for us to reboot as leaders. Education leaders also need to change. The world is changing, our realities are changing, and therefore we need to change. It has been shared that there are 21st century education leader attributes or competencies. You need to be a visionary. You need to be able to adapt well. You have to function as an effective communicator, as a risk taker. You need to be able to influence your community and also the decisions of the institutions that you are part of. You need to be able to collaborate in a productive way with your stakeholders, with your social partners, with your teachers, with your staff, your admin staff in the universities, no? And while this remain to be true, the relevant competencies, in this context, these are all viewed no, quite differently. In terms of vision, we have to contend with this pandemic. So yung dati nating vision, baka kailangan ma-revisit din natin. No? So that's very, very important. Having said this, your leadership roles might have also changed. Baka yung mga traditional roles natin dati, gamay na natin. We're so used to performing our conventional roles as education leaders. In this pandemic, let me ask you, have you checked with your teachers, your faculty, your admin staff, how they are feeling, genuinely feeling through this crisis, through this challenge? Kasi ako, one of the leadership role I now function in my organization, and even beyond, I have been out of Strasbourg since February, but a lot of CERSOs have remained in touch with me. One role I play now is para akong psychiatrist, no? Chadeli ng bayan, ganon. Lovingly yours, Helen, ganon ang peg. Bakit? Importante din yun because as a leader, as an education leader, you have to help your team members to keep a psychological and mental positive disposition. Nakaka-stress kaya ito, hindi ba? So, that is one role that we now have to play. We have to play the role of a wellness guru no? As an education leader. Baka mamaya, tayo pa yung stressor sa mga kasama natin. So, paki-check lang po yung ating behaviors also. Why do we have to change to reboot? Eh, your leadership place is also changing if it hasn't totally changed. Di ba? Ngayon, tayo nga, Diyos ko naman, na-miss ko kayo last year, nandyan talaga ako, di ba? Nagkita-kita tayo, pero it was in Lawag for the CHED event. But now, I'm talking to you. I face my computer. I'm in my house. So thank you po for letting me into your houses also today. Some of you are in the offices, but I hope you are observing the protocols kasi marami tayong mga government agencies na may mga nagpa-positive din na employees. So now, your classroom is virtual. You have a Google Classroom where now we're using StreamYard, no? And for schools in some parts of Europe and UK, even in Korea, hindi sila nag-close ng schools and universities, no? So they practice yung safe social distancing in the classroom. I know that's a challenge for most state universities where you might have in fact increased enrollment kasi maraming nawalan ngayon sa Inquirer, no? A lot of parents have decided to ask to stop the kids from to stop schooling, no? from most of their kids. So you see classrooms that have chairs and tables but with no students. And modality-wise, in terms of learning delivery, we have shifted to e-learning. The work from home arrangements, no, or the alternative work arrangements that even civil service have supported through a memorandum circular actually have left, including me, a lot of people anxious, di ba? Kasi hindi mo nga sure kung anong nangyayari. And ako sa Tourism Promotions Board, we had our personnel tested, nag-swab testing lahat noong July 3, no? So, now our anxiety is that, naku, paano kaya yung results namin? You feel isolated kasi kahit nagkikita-kita tayo dito. Pero lalo na, ito sina Doc, saka sina Ma'am Mel, medyo mga millennial. Yung mga millennial, sanay sila na virtual yung kanilang chikahan. Pero tayo, di ba, na medyo hindi millennial na, gusto pa rin natin yung face-to-face. Dahil mag-isa ka dyan sa bahay mo, wala kang EA, you don't have your clerk, you do everything. So sometimes it's overwhelming, no? And those of us who are not technology savvy, the adjustments to the use of technology have been quite challenging. So for some, ayan, the level of stress has increased. At pag ikaw ay nasa state of stress, this will impact your relationships. And so, your relationships might have also changed. Okay. Si Kubler-Ross, no, meron yung kanyang grief cycle. Sometimes it is also referred to as the change cycle. So, in a time of change where we are right now, where are you? How are you feeling? Sige nga, feeling check, emotion check muna. In denial pa ba kayo? Di ba, we still say, mawawala naman yung virus kasi mainit sa atin, magkakaroon ng vaccine, yan, ang mga in denial. Habang wala ang vaccine at mukha namang malamig, umuulan, mainit, nandyan pa rin ang COVID. Ayan, harapin na natin. Or, are you feeling angry, no? Bakit? Hindi nga tayo makalabas, no? For those kami lalo na sa Metro Manila. I'm sure now the ones who are watching from Cebu, siguro nanonood kayo kasi wala rin kayong mapuntahan, no? Naka-lockdown din talaga. So, we have seen on social media how people have become so angry, no? At marami pang nangyayari sa paligid natin, not only this COVID. Yesterday, I had a webinar with a regional group of DepEd in Region 8. And one of the superintendents in our sharing said, he actually felt depressed in April or no start. Kasi, sabi niya, ma'am, I was so anxious at hindi ko rin alam kung magkaka-COVID ba ako or whatever. And, yung iba sa atin, baka nasa stage na ng bargaining. Hindi ba? Bargaining leaves us trying to find a meaning. Bakit kaya ito, ganito? Siguro, nire-remind tayo ni Lord na ganito, magdasal tayo lahat, etc. Or, we are bargaining already because we are on the stage na, may purpose itong pinagdadaanan natin. The ideal level there is yung acceptance. Kasi pag nasa accept, not ideal, I'm sorry for the word, productive. The productive level is acceptance. Why? Because when you have accepted this situation and this change, then you will be willing to explore new options, to have new plans in place, and to actually move on. Diba? To actually move on. So, yan. This is not a linear cycle. Pwede kang umiikot-ikot dito. Kahapon in denial ka. Today may acceptance ka ng konti. Depende kung ilang oras yung tulog mo kagabi. No? The argument on how to, or the advice on how to survive change well is one of them comes from Charles Darwin, who said that the strongest of the species that survive are not sorry, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, nor the most beautiful, no? Kahit may corona ka dyan, ikaw ang Miss Universe, hindi pa rin yan ang key to your survival. The people, the ones who will survive, are the ones who will adapt well to change, who will use the change, who will harness the change to become stronger, to become better, to become more passionate, as noted by R.D. Valera. Okay, review lang. What drives change? Bakit may changes na nangyayari? There are different forces that drive change. One, ito, very real, technology, no? So, yan, may social media, the use of gadgets, etc. Of course, with COVID, a lot of countries have, you know, have plunged into recession. And tayo rin, we have seen a lot of businesses close shop, some enterprises declaring bankruptcy. Sabi ng Department of Labor, we have remarkably lost a lot of jobs. A lot of people are unemployed. So kasama po lahat ito sa mga factors, economic factors that drive change. We also see political transitions, no, and developments. So ngayon, di ba, mainit pa yung issue ng ABS-CBN franchise, the anti-terrorism law, maraming nangyayari sa paligid natin. But of course, the very real challenge that confronts everybody, no exception, whether you're a poor, a rich country, a developing, a developed, or a well-advanced country, everybody is facing the risk of this virus. When we zoom in to our organizations, sometimes, ang akin nga, huwag nyo naman ang sabayan, ang dami ng ano yung nangyayari sa labas, sasabayan mo pa sa loob. Sige, mag-rationalization muna tayo, yung mga ISO natin, talagang i-dictate mo. Medyo chill muna ngayon, no? So, strategic change and culture change within organizations. Yung culture change, some of it can happen if the culture change would be able to help you survive this challenge with your team. A culture change can take the form of a mindset change, a behavior change, or the values and traits of your team members. Ayan, sa atin education leaders, online learning is a major technology change. Dahil, yan, sinabi na ni PRRD, no face-to-face, online learning, we will not gamble with letting our students face the risk of being infected. Lahat po ba ng klase ng change ay pare-pareho? Are all changes the same? They're not. There are three kinds of change. One is developmental, the other one is transitional, or the third one that's really large in magnitude and also in impact is called the transformational change. Developmental change takes place when you improve a skill or a way of doing things. And this is usually driven by your motivation to do better, to improve a way of delivering service. So it is often incremental change. It just enhances or corrects what exists right now. The transitional change, that's why I use that picture. It unlocks a door, to something new. So it changes what presently exists and brings you, it opens a door to something that's really new. So it enables you to achieve a new state over a set period of time. Examples of this would include rationalization, di ba? Tayo, hindi ko alam yung SUCs kung tapos na kayo lahat na dun sa forever rationalization ng mga government organizations. And of course, right now, the shift to ICT-enabled processes is something so real and imperative for many of us. The transformational change, as I said, is the one that's really huge in terms of magnitude. And it's not just incremental change or it leads you to something new. It actually, no, gives life to an altogether different entity. That's why I put the butterfly there because diba, we see the transformation from the pupa to becoming about a beautiful butterfly. Ideally, transformational change is a positive change. If you transform for the worst, ay nako, that's going to be something more challenging for all of us. Okay, moment of reflection. What recent organizational change changed you? Okay, can you think? And then, can you also reflect, anong klaseng change ba yon? Developmental, transitional, transformational, I have friends, mga transgender friends ko na talagang transformational change, di ba? The last time we saw each other, mas malaki yung aking hinaharap. Nung nagkita kami ulit, mas malaki na yung... So, transformational change po yun, no? And transitional change, isipin nyo nga, ano yung mga pagbabagong pinagdadaanan ninyo? I have friends who obtained an annulment, no? That is also a a transitional, no, if not a transformative change in on the personal, no, in the personal level. But organizationally, that's one my question is what recent organizational change changed you? It could be a reassignment, no, an effort to do quality management or ISO, or maybe internally in your agency, you try to reassign personnel given the realities. This slide starts me on the meat of our discussion, which is to focus on how we can reboot education leadership. And Wallace Foundation made the case on why leadership is important for education leaders. Because it is next, second only, no, to the influence, to classroom instruction, how we deliver lessons in the classroom or now online as an influence on student learning. Your leadership is the second most important factor that affects student learning. So we have three stops today as we travel through this education leadership reboot dialogue. Buti na lang dinagdag ko tong resilience kasi kahapon na nag-tech check kami yan, si Doc Mel biglang, ay ma'am, dinagdag po namin yung resilience. O, di ba? Naka-connect ang ating mga minds dahil dinagdag ko talaga siya. May review tayo on resilience and then just to briefly share the 10 effective traits of great education leaders. If you go online and Google it, ang dami, millions, no, yung traits ng effective education leaders. But I zeroed in on just 10. And the third part is our reset, the rebooting. And I won't be a spoiler, basta meron akong dyan, surprise sa atin na gagawin. Hindi naman gagawin physically, virtual pa din. So, going back to resilience, just to review, there are three aspects when you reckon with resilience. The aspect of being able to persist, you not giving up in the face of adversity. This has to do with your ability to overcome and steer through the difficult challenges or adversity that you face in life, in your organization as well. The second competence or dimension has to do with your ability to adapt. And what do we mean by your ability to adapt? Eh, dapat flexible tayo. Pag hindi ka flexible, di ba? Ang example natin dyan, yung bamboo for flexibility. Kasi in the face of strong winds, no, when there's my typhoon, nagbe-bend lang siya, no, being flexible. If you remain inflexible, you will break. The change will break you. So be always conscious to make an effort to adapt, to adjust to the change. Then the third element has to do with your ability to find a way to move on. Diba yung probinsyanong tagal-tagal ng telenovela? Bakit? Eh hindi nag-move on yung mga bida tsaka kontrabida. Diba? So kailangan mag-move on tayo, mag-move forward after an adversity, after a failure. When something did not go your way, ay, move on. No? And that has to do with your competence to bounce back. On the second competence of adaptability, Ron Heifetz, that's the guy there, a great leadership guru in Kennedy School of Government, he said that adaptive leadership is the act of mobilizing a group of individuals to handle tough challenges and emerge triumphant in the end. So it's not just a question na, sige, harapin natin to, no? No. Huwag kayong mamamatay, di ba? Sabi nga ni Nietzsche, the German philosopher, whatever does not kill you makes you stronger. So, huwag tayong mamamatay dito sa COVID, ha? Pray tayo, observe natin tong mga protocols. That is part of your responsibility as an adaptive leader. Okay? Do not die from the challenge. And then the element of bouncing back. There are two things I want you guys to remember. So, in terms of bouncing back, my forever, the true measure of success is how many times you can bounce back from failure. Sabi ni Jesus in the Bible, 70 times 7 times, which means infinite. Infinite. Huwag magsawang mag-bounce back. No? And the second aspect has to do with, nagba-bounce back ka nga. Diyos ko, marami ka namang hugot. Nagba-bounce back ka nga, nag-move on ka, pero bitter ka, hindi ka better. Ha? So, dapat better. So, how gracious, no? How gracious you rise, you bounce back after falling is equally important. So, remember, two things. Huwag magsawa, may forever sa bouncing back. Pangalawa, the how, di ba? You should be gracious in bouncing back. I borrowed this from Driven, which shows the 6 domains of resilience. I put it here and will share with you the slides through Doc Mel. Kasi nakita ko na, okay naman to, no? Ito, collaboration, composure, reasoning, tenacity, health, and vision. Pero in 2017 kasi, I developed my own framework. O, di ba? Ang taray, di ba? Parang sabi ko, makagawa nga ng sarili ko din framework. O, ayan. Ang sarili kong framework, hindi lang 6, kundi 8. O, di ba? Bakit? Yung kanina, yung 6 domains, wala yun nung, financial stewardship as a factor, as a competence for resilience. Bakit? Diyos ko, mga kapatid, mga ma'am, sir, pag marami kang utang, mahirap po maging resilient. Hindi ba? And the worst, ito yung wag yung uutangin. Yung utang na loob. Kasi, pag may utang na loob ka, it ties your hands in terms of decision making. Pinakiusap sa'yo, di ba? Yung pagkaka-appoint mo dyan as president of the university, you had to talk to a lot of backers. Now that you're appointed, the backers talk to you. Appoint mo naman to dyan, yung mga ganyan. How do you say no? Di ba? Kasi utang na loob yun. So, financial stewardship is a key element for being resilient. Pasadahan lang natin, ha? There are 4 dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, or psychological, and spiritual. And for each of the 4 dimensions, merong 2 competencies. That's why I have 8. For the physical, yan. Kanina nakita lang yung health sa energy management. And then sa emotional, merong 2 components, your personal competence and the social competence, how you manage and master your relationships. The mental fitness has to do with your ability to approach problems well and how do you solve them. And your mental perspective. Do you see the cup half full or half empty? Do you see a challenge as a blessing? Do you see a crisis as an opportunity? O talagang wala, super nega tayo, super nega-fragilistic, no? Ay nako, mahirap kung kasama yung ang nakikita lang palagi ay negative. Sa COVID lang po tayo dapat mag-negative. In all other aspects of our lives, dapat positive tayo. And then the 4th one has to do with spiritual fortitude, which now has to do with your ability to harness the difficulty you have gone through, survived, so that it helps you reach out to others. It grows your empathy, and it makes you an effective human first being in this world. Of course, all these are centered on the core of your vision, personal vision, leadership vision, your purpose and goals, no? as an education leader. Tingnan po ninyo, may tatlong outcomes yan. Pag na-master mo yung 8 competencies, the 8 competencies lead you to have healthy relationships. The healthy relationships allow you to have effective performance as a team, as a person. And if you have that, then the result is that you will actually realize a leadership that is purposeful. Physical. How do you achieve physical resilience or health? Daily, regular, and fun sex. Yan. Kahapon yung mga taga-DepEd tuwan-tuwa dito. Sabi ko, mga ma'am, sir, that is an acronym. S begins with S, sex begins with S, sleep 8 hours. Sabi kanina ni Doc JP, ngayon palagi tayong glued sa monitor screen kahit in the middle of the night, no? Yung iba, coping yun eh. Naku, wag. You still have to sleep 8 hours a night. A night po ha? Bakit? Yung sleep ninyo during the day na you said, babawiin ko yung kulang kagabi. My doctor friends say that doesn't work. So pag kulang ang tulog mo, hindi mo po yan pwedeng bayaran during the day. Iba ang tulog sa gabi ng 8 oras. Eat right. Now that we are at home most of the time, this affords us an opportunity to eat more, di ba, healthy foods. And exercise. Ayan, naku, ilang oras na naman tayo nakaupo today. So dapat marunong kayong mag-yoga chair, marunong kayong mag-stretch habang kayo ay nakikinig sa webinar, or feel free to stand up, no? You have to keep moving. On the emotional aspect, this really has to do with growing deeper. Yan, sa ilalim ng iceberg. Bakit? Hindi yan nakikita ng karamihan eh. But the manifestations of how mature you are emotionally actually manifest itself physically, no? Or above the water. When you have high EQ, this means you have high self-awareness. You know what you're feeling. And you mind what you say, your words, your behaviors, because you are aware how your words, your behavior will impact others. Ano yung consequences nun sa mga kasama mo? And of course, it allows you to act appropriately. Use the words that do not stress other people, di ba? And in a time of that, or ikaw mismo na-feel mo stressed out ka, press your pause button. Pause. Yung usual technique is you count 1 to 10, or you take 4 deep breaths. No? Why? When you pause, it gives you that safe space to actually explore, question, and reflect. What will you say? How will this impact others? How will this impact your team? How will this impact on your school? So this picture shows you the comparative elements of what are in the EQ side and then what are in the IQ side, or your intelligence quotient. Nowadays, ayan, ito daw ang modern definition of resilience. So tinignan ko siya, nilagay ko dito para may reference lang tayo. It says, advancing despite adversity. Ang cute, no? Parang na-summarize niya yung 8. So it also begins with your vision, your goal orientation. So work towards it. Ito na, be proactive. Don't wait for the adversity to happen. Parang mahirap yun, ano? Kasi hindi mo nga alam what lies ahead. And yet, anticipate mo na siya. So maybe that's the word. You anticipate what possible adverse consequence will happen. And then adversity, of course, could be small, could be large. And later on, as we continue the conversation, I will actually focus on that. Okay. So second stop natin sa biyaheng reboot, education reboot, ay refresh. Okay. What are the effective traits of great school leaders? Sabi ni R.D. Galera kanina, sa kanya may 3. Passion, energy, no? And commitment. Very good. Okay? So check ba tayo dun sa 3 na yan? Tapos ngayon, dadagdagan ko pa. No. Pero yung passion nandito din yon. So again, ayan, paulit-ulit ako dito. Bakit? Importante po na alam ninyo where you are going. You have a vision. It starts with your dream. It's your goal. Can you close your eyes for 5 seconds? Okay? Or maybe 10 seconds. Okay. With your eyes closed, can you imagine how your school looks like by the end of your term as president? by the time you retire, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. Imagine nyo ba yun? Naku, how you imagine that school is actually your vision. Now, having a vision does not stop there. Okay? You have to act on your vision. My next question, how soon will you create your future? Mamaya na, tapusin muna natin yung webinar bago nyo i-create yung future nyo. Second trait, effective education leaders collaborate to create an inclusive learning environment. And collaboration is multi-directional. Hindi yung mga gusto mo lang ka-collaborate. No. You have to collaborate with everybody even if you don't like them. The members of your community, your congressman, the mayor in your town, no? Your community stakeholders, the NGOs there, the civil society organizations, your social partners, most importantly, the parents in your school, your university, and your learners. Particularly for higher education institutions, your learners are mature, huh? And some of them might also have ideas on how to make collaboration is the process. The end result is to create an inclusive learning environment. The usual cliche na no one is left behind. So sabi ni Ardy Galera kanina, di ba, isa ito sa aspiration natin. Even in a different approach to delivering learning, we want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind. So yan, just inventory in your mind. Sino mga yung mga dapat chinichika ninyo? Sino ba dapat yung mga kinakausap ninyo, yung partner with? As I said, even if you don't like them, stay professional to support your vision and realize your goals. Third trait, they build their community. How do you build your community? Mga ma'am, sir, you have to be seen in action. Eh ngayon, hindi muna kasi may physical distancing, no? But in regular, normal times where there's no virus, there's no pandemic, were you visible in your community? Nararamdaman ba kayo? Nakikita ba kayo? Are you transparent in your actions? Last year, I visited a public school in Cavite. Was very happy when I entered the campus. Talagang may bulletin board na nakalagay doon how much is the PTA funds, how it is dispersed, what is the MOOE budget of the university, and paano yung ginagamit. So, napaka-transparent nung utilization of financial resources. Why is it important to be transparent in our actions? Because it is a key ingredient in our ability to build trust with others. Diba? I'm sure yung iba dyan, you have faced situations na a very bad reputation preceded you dahil lang sa mga chikit. Ayun, tumatanggap yan eh. Alam mo ba yan? Yung mga appointment, may presyo. So, naku, pag hindi ka transparent, transparency requires you to adapt a criteria, to have a clear policy, and share it, articulate it, so that everybody knows. It is when we lack information and there is asymmetric information and people don't know what's happening that fake news, okay, surfaces. So we have to be able to arrest that. Building the community requires you to share your purpose with the parents, staff, community members, and your students. Okay? Great education leaders sustain community partnerships and use that. Use the partnerships so you cultivate inclusive, caring, and culturally responsive school communities. Why did I add the word culture? Iba-iba po tayo dyan sa Cordillera, may iba ang kultura, sa Region 1, sa Ilocos, iba dyan sa Mindanao, sa Zamboanga, in our Muslim communities, iba din po ang kultura. Kaming mga Bicolano, iba din ang kultura. So, inclusion, no? The aspect of inclusion should always take into account the peculiarities of the community culture. Otherwise, whatever things you bring into your community will not be sustainable. An effective education leader is one that empowers the teachers and hone others to be leaders like them. Aba, hindi lang po tayo yung magaling. Dapat meron kayong leadership team in your team. The most important rule of educational leadership is to always remember that people, those around you, the members of your team, not policies or programs, are what drive highly effective schools. That is the argument why you should empower your teachers, your staff to become leaders like you. What kind of education leader are you in terms of empowerment? Ito yung sa delegation and monitoring. Are you the guardian angel who gives guidance but who watches over? Or are you the super magnet? Nakadikit na, hindi na hiniwalay. Ano ba? Tapos na ba yung pinagagawa ko? Hindi ba? O hindi ba ako COVID itong ubo ko? Nasamid ako. Mm-mm. Or, ikaw ba ay leader na parang epoxy glue? Yan. Anong difference ng glue? Yung glue nakadikit talaga. Yung magnet, may trigger, no? Pag nandun na yung pandikit, saka kayo lumalapit. Ay, parang ngayon ng deadline, hindi pa rin nagagawa. Tawagan ko nga si Doc Mel. Oy, meron na, tapos na ba yung pinagagawa ko? Or are you a leader that is a hovercraft? Yung palaging nandyan sa ibabaw mo, sa likod, umaali-aligid, nakakainis kaya yun, di ba? As a leader who empowers, you have to give your people autonomy. Give them latitude, give them space. Not only to give them opportunity for improving their career and ensuring that they grow, but also allowing them to have full control of their career decisions. Ito na yung sinabi ni R.D. Galera, passion. If you are a good and effective education leader, you are passionate about your work. Passion, well, the single import ultimate test is, do you love what you do? Siguro naman, kasi po kung hindi, hindi kayo tatagal. Diba? Why? Why is this important? Eh kung hindi niyo po mahal, hindi niyo gusto yung ginagawa ninyo, you will grudgingly do what you need to do. And one anonymous person said that somehow you are partially your work. So if what you do is something that you don't love, eh parang you don't love yourself also, di ba? Be kind to yourself. Sabi ni Steve Jobs, how he defined passion, it's that feeling, no? Na you cannot wait for the sun to rise again, for you to get up and out and do your work. Diba? Parang tumatakbo ko talaga ngayon, hindi tayo makalabas ng bahay, yung mga naka-lockdown pa, no? Pero ito talaga yung, oh my God, paggising mo sa umaga, eh, feel mo na, wow, raring to go. Sabi nga ni Doc Galera and RDA, my energy. Now, the sixth trait, and there are 6 strategies to be able to become a data-driven, data-based education leader. If you are an effective education leader, you have to use data to drive improvement. Hindi pwedeng nanghuhula, hindi pwedeng guesstimate. Kailangan there is solid evidence, facts, information, statistics. So the 6 strategies here, I won't go through each one, but it's important that you establish a culture of data use, the number 2 strategy. Ikaw mismo, as the president, as a member of the leadership team in the university, yung sanayin nyo yung sarili nyo. No? Get used to using data within your team. Simple data like how many enrollees do you have, how many teachers do you have the profile of your faculty, ilan yung magre-retire in 5 years, in 2 years, in 10 years time. What are the competencies that you need for your university? What kinds of courses will you offer to ensure employability? Diba? So, lahat po ito. Do you respond with the labor market survey in your area to make sure that your graduates are actually employable and have actual jobs to go to when they graduate? So, on the left side, you will see these 6 strategies, which I will ask you to refer in your own time. I'm sharing this slide, which I borrow from the US. The only reason why I put this here is because if you look at the white circle, which is the school context, and also the system context sa baba, na data system, these are the specifics up na information or data aspects which are also relevant to us in the Philippines. Sa data system ninyo, decide what type of data do you need, how do you organize it, what are your tools for acting on the data, what are your tools for analyzing the data, how do you make your data accessible. Okay. So in the data system within your system, the context of your bigger system, how do you share data, and how do you now, ito na, translate your data into actionable programs or activities. 7, if you are an effective education leader, you are brave. You are brave to take risks, and you encourage others to also take those risks. Kanina sa 6, data. Pero ito na sabihin, ito naman sa Atty. Allones, inconsistent. Sabi niya data, tapos ngayon instinct. Ito yung part of risk taking. Kailangan po nababalansin niyo yon. Ito na yung mga data, kompleto na yung mga na kinalap mong information. But they're not complete enough to afford you a decision that makes you comfortable. This is where your courage to take risks comes in. Do you trust your intuition? No? Do you trust your instinct to proceed in a particular path, in a particular direction, and make some decisions this way or that way? Are you brave enough to do what is right? And doing what is right, not sometimes, not often, but all the time. All the time. Courage is forever. May forever is courage. Ron Heifetz also said that your behavior reflects your actual purposes. So ito yung alam na natin, walk the talk, palagi natin narinig yung walk the talk. Yan po yan. You have to lead by example. An innocuous behavior like, where do you eat your lunch? No? During those days when you were going to the school path. Or now, during this webinar season. Leading by example is dressing appropriately for your virtual meetings. Hindi porke nasa bahay ka, naka-duster ka pag pupunta ka sa virtual meeting. You have to still package yourself as a leader. So you have to dress right. O tingnan nyo ako, di ba mamaya, baka ngayon hindi nyo na ako nakikita, pero nagbi-blazer pa ako, I wear Filipiniana. Bakit? Ito recent promotions din ako. I have to foster awareness on our fabrics. So we have to lead by example always. Okay? Ito yung magandang parang synergy of how to lead by example for the school leader. This is one good paradigm. You become while you do. O, di ba? Talagang yung walking the talk, yung tinuturo mo individually and how you behave in the community context or in the political context. Consistent lahat yan. And you harness all of that. You also learn from others. And you always lead by example based on your learning from others. 9, if you are an effective education leader, you have to have the attitude of a lifelong learner. Eh, lalo na ngayon, tingnan nyo yan. How will we survive in the age of automation? Charles Darwin said, adapt. O, ayan, you have to adapt. Kung kailan tumanda, no? Saka naka-Kindle siya. O. When we were younger, ako, isa ngayon, nagbabasa pa rin ako ng printed books, no? So, yan, makikita natin the transition and the evolution of technology. In this time of community lockdowns and virtual learning, it's still a must to read a book. As a leader, when was the last time you read a book? Yung Facebook po, hindi po yung book, ha? Oo, tinatawag lang siyang Facebook. Pero hindi po siya book. At syempre, ako'y tourism promotions, kahit na may mga travel restrictions pa ngayon. But still, I want to ask and hope you will aspire to travel soon again. But when was the last time you traveled? And why did I put this question here? Because traveling is a very effective way to educate our learners. Kaya nga, di ba, sa universities and even in grade school or high school levels, meron tayong field trip. Bakit? May mga napupulot dun yung learners natin dun sa field trip naman. Eto na, pinakamahirap na trait. Effective leaders communicate. Not just for the sake of saying something. Hindi tayo members ng MEMA Association. Alam niyo yung MEMA, di ba? Yung MEMA sabi lang, gano'n. Hindi po tayo mga MEMA, but we communicate well and communicate effectively. Communicating well and effectively begins also with the inclusion concern. Ano ibig sabihin nito? You create a Viber group. Wala namang mga Viber yung kasama mo sa university. O hindi sila makakasama. O sige, mag-WhatsApp tayo. Tanungin niyo muna, may app ba sila noon? O ayan, mag-shift tayo sa Google Classroom. May na-download ba nila yon? So dapat yung software, the services that you will use for our virtual communication ngayon, including your staff and everybody you need to communicate with, ay inclusive. Pare-pareho kayong meron nun. Ito, importante. That's your communication style. Support, work-life balance, or nakaka-stress? Does it cause burnout to others? Di ba pag meron kang pinost na message, ganun. Nahihilo yung mga kasama mo, naiinis. In matters of morale, your workload, the relationships, the routine, and boundaries, you need to ask whether your communication with staff, with your team members, promotes mental wellness or illness. Pag ikaw ba yung nag-communicate, nakaka-stress, baka naman kasi nagte-text ko kayo 2 a.m. dahil hindi ka makatulog, wala kang pakundang, i-text ko nga. Hindi lang yun, i-require mo pa dapat sumagot. At least ako, no, like, I have worked with some cabinet secretaries, may leaders, may mga ganyan, and they say, you don't have to respond. I'm just sending this kasi baka the next day makalimutan ko. So that's a very nice way to be conscious, to have awareness of how your message at 3 o'clock in the morning will impact others. So how do you do this? Double check, not just double check, triple check for understanding yung message mo. Naintindihan ba nila? May clarity ba? Do you support a structured routine? What do I mean by this? A structured routine is, for example, kami sa TPB. Sabi ko, guys, now that we have settled in the work from home arrangements, can we adopt some ethos, some etiquettes? Okay, I don't message my staff before 8 a.m. Although sa gabi, sometimes, kahit gabi na, nagme-message kami. But yun nga, they don't need to reply also. So may structure. Lunchtime. Respect nyo pa rin yung lunch break. Diba? Huwag nyo na magtatawagan ng lunchtime kasi baka nagluluto pa yan ng kakainin o kumakain. And just because we're not bonding physically does not mean you cannot make an effort to find time to get personal. My birthday, magpadala kayo ng virtual pansit. Gano'n. O magpa-food panda kayo or magpalala grab. Alala move or grab. Pinumbay ko yun, lala grab. Cute, no? Pwede rin, di ba? So, find time to get personal. Noong June, when I turned 51 on my birthday, sabi ko, nakakatuwa kung kailan naman naka-lockdown, saka ako nakatanggap ng pagkarami-raming flowers, cakes, gano'n. Nakaano lang lahat, delivery. So, the whole day, na-stress ako kakalabas ng gate dahil sa mga delivery. So, yan, pwede po rin natin yung gawin, no? Magpadala kayo ng pansit sa staff. Okay, dito na tayo, reset. Reset. And I'm using mountains as a metaphor. Diba? Mountain climbing tayo ngayon. Yan ang activity natin in this last part of our conversation. Bakit? This has to do with our ability to harness our adversity, the challenge that we face. Sir Winston Churchill said, kites rise higher against the wind, not with it. So the same is true for education leaders. We should use this challenge so that we can rise higher. And how do you rise higher? Hindi naman tayo makalipad dyan sa wind. So I thought the more realistic way to rise higher is to climb a mountain. So this morning, we will climb 7 mountains, okay? We will try to reach the top of 7 mountains. I borrow many of the ideas here from this book of Dr. Paul Stoltz entitled Adversity Advantage. It talks about how you can harness your everyday struggles so that you can become great education leaders. Okay, eto na. Unang akyat natin. First mountain, akyat na tayo Our first summit. What is the idea here? Bring it on. The attitude. There's a challenge. May COVID. Bring it on. Wag lang yung virus makuha mo. Pero talagang, sige, bring this challenge on. Tingnan natin. And we should be able to get out of this mountain alive. So, how do we do that? Let me begin by the definition of adversity. Adversity refers to anything that is negatively impacting you, or you foresee that it will have a negative impact on you or someone that you truly, deeply care about. Ayan. So kung hindi mo naman, it doesn't concern you, it will not be an adversity kasi wala nang effect sa'yo. There are two spheres or two kinds of adversity. The inner adversity, which has to do with, ayan, palagi kang may anxiety, depression, marami kang nararamdaman ngayon sa katawan, di ba? May gout, may rheuma, may back pain, may lower back pain, may carpal tunnel, may frozen shoulder, over fatigue, hindi makatulog. And sometimes adversity happens outside of you, externally. Okay? This includes things like people betraying you. That's outside of you. Hindi mo naman control yun. Eh. Or a national disaster. Nasa newspaper today, yung Northern Luzon pala, no? You were battered by rains yesterday. Or flights, hindi lang cancel. Ngayon, wala talagang flights. Ayan, madaming nawawala ng trabaho. Or nag-crash yung computer mo, virtual learning na wala ka pang magamit yung computer. Okay? Someone close to you or a loved one dies. So, note that if we don't harness, if we don't manage the outer adversity, it eventually seeps in to your internal sphere. Bakit? Di ba pag you feel betrayed, then you get depressed. Correct? O, yun. Now, how do you score? How do you see whether this adversity is important to you or not? May dalawang I. Tingnan mo. Ano yung impact nito sa'yo and how important it is to you? The betrayal of a friend. Anong impact? Oh my God, ang sakit kaya nun. Importance to you? Okay lang, makaka-move on ka, di ba? So, it will not be a very strong or high adversity in your list. But you can do this on your own. So when we say you have a high AQ, ang dami ng Q, no? May ECQ, GCQ, MGCQ, MECQ. Dito, sa area of education leadership competence, meron din tayong iba-ibang Q. May IQ, may EQ, may RQ, resilience, di ba? Resilience quotient. At ito na ngayon, AQ, adversity quotient. Yan. Your AQ is the measure of how well you respond to adversity of all kinds. If you are a person who gets easily overwhelmed by a challenge, low AQ ka, sir, ma'am. But if you are resilient and you find new resources to get you out of that situation, to combat that adversity, to turn around the challenge, then you have very high AQ. Okay. People with high AQ, if you heard me, I use the word harness. They're able to harness the adversity. This is the continuum in the mountain. Sa base ng mountain, yan. These are the people who just avoid, then pangalawang akyat, umakyat ng konti, nagsusurvive sa challenge. Pangatlo, okay, coping na sila, or medyo managing na, but the ideal, the peak, no, is that you're able to harness. Ano ibig sabihin nito in detail? When you are sa base of the mountain, avoiding, you are still in denial. So parang, you just go around the problem, you don't do anything about it. When you're surviving na, ayan, you're going through the problem, parang, kino-confront mo siya, parang lulusot ka lang, pero wala ka pa rin talagang ginagawa. At least sa coping, meron ka ng acceptance. You now accept that this is an issue that you need to face, but productively, you should manage at which stage you are actively engaged. You make an effort to contain the impact and to minimize the downside, no, of the consequence of the adversity. But as I said, the productive and ideal point in the mountain is you are able to harness. When you are a leader who is able to harness the adversity, parang judo yan. You use the weight, the weight of your opponent and your own weight to, di ba, to defeat the opponent. Use adversity to elevate yourself and others. The second mountain peak, ayan, akyat tayo dyan. You have to synergize for strength. You cannot synergize by yourself. Kailangan may kasama ka, di ba? At saka, mahirap kayo umakyat ng bundok, mag-isa ka lang. You have to have your team in climbing the second mountain, which symbolizes your strength. It's important that when you look for team members to climb with you, you are aligned in your purpose, your why. Bakit mo ginagawa yan? Para kanino ka bumabangon, sabi sa Nescafe, o may commercial pa ako. Your strength is the sum total of you and your team's willingness, the will to climb, plus the cumulative skills that you have, the talents, the strengths that you all have. So it leads to your strength as a leader and as a team. Ayan na. Akit na tayo. Lipot na tayo ng bundok. Wala akong time kagabi eh. Naghahanap sana ako ng ano ba yung mga bundok. Kaya lang nationwide din naman pala tayo. Itong mga bundok dito, lahat yan, nasa Eastern Visayas. Kasi ginamit ko ito dun sa mga taga Eastern Visayas. And I was surprised, hindi nila alam kung ano yung mga bundok na yan at saan yung bundok. Ayan. This is one way to educate our learners, ha? For them to rediscover their communities. And now, in the third mountain, we have to rediscover the strategies for having a very strong core. Ito, core stands for control, ownership, reach, and endurance. These are the four strategies para tayo ay maging effective education leader in the time of adversity. Ano ba yung control? Well, it just has to do with the question whether do you have influence or do you have control over the situation. So when the challenge confronts you, ask yourself, to what extent do you perceive you can influence whatever is going to happen next? Bakit? Eh kung wala naman kayong control, huwag na kayong maglulupasay dyan, wala talaga kayong magagawa. Si Randy Posh delivered a lecture 2 months before he died. Randy Posh was a professor at the MIT, no? And he was diagnosed to have 7 cancers. And so he was asked to give a lecture. And then I said 2 months after he died. So the lecture was transposed into a book entitled The Last Lecture. If I were to summarize what Randy Posh mentioned in this book, he simply said that, you know, in life, you cannot control the cards that you are dealt with. But you have full control as to how you will deal with the cards. Okay, now, adversity. Hindi natin makontrol. Katulad yan, COVID, malay ba natin, dumating yung virus na yan. We cannot control that we were given COVID to face at this time. But we have full control as to how we will deal with it. Do we get our acts together? Do we mobilize the experts, the academe, the scientists? No? Do we, as a community, observe the protocols to ensure that there is no further spread to contain the contagion? So we have full control in terms of behaviors and attitudes. Yung isang pwede niyong gawin dito, ayan, to reckon whether you have control or influence. Imagine nyo, okay, can you raise your right hands? Raise your right hand. Make a big circle. Ayan, exercise din to, stretching. Your right circle is your circle of control. Pag meron kang adversity, okay, kailangan ng bagong curriculum. Is that within your circle of control? Yes. So by all means, do something about it. Thank you. Raise your left hand, please. Make your big circle there. Okay. This is your circle of influence. What is the circle of influence? What is the issue here? Oh my God, ang konti-konti ng mga nag-e-enroll. No? Is that within your control? No. It is outside. Bakit? Hindi mo hawak yung decision ng parents. Hindi mo hawak yung capacity, yung resource ng families, whether they can meet the requirements for online learning. So, yan. Huwag naman ho kayong ma-depress kung wala kayong magagawa. Also, the prayer of St. Francis is one good way to clarify whether we have control or we have influence, and what we need to be able to distinguish. He said, God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. O yan, influence yan. Kasi you cannot change it. Or the courage to change the things I can control. Diba? And the wisdom to know the difference. Note the virtues or values. Sa influence, acceptance. Wala kang magagawa. Sa control, courage. Okay? And your wisdom to know the difference. Sa courage, may magagawa ka. Therefore, do something. Step up. which brings us to ownership. Okay? Control, ownership. May magagawa ka, then do something. Recognize that you can make a difference and therefore step up. Do something about the issue. Letter R is reach. On the matter of reach, sabi ni Dr. Paul Stoltz, you imagine the adversity or the challenge like a black cloud, parang rain cloud. It influences your burdens, diba? It aggravates your life situation. And sometimes it paralyzes you, it immobilizes you, you are not able to do something, you're not able to act, you're not able to move. So reach has to do with your ability to limit the reach of the dark cloud. Contain it. Huwag mo nang palakihin. Huwag ka nang mag-exaggerate. Do not blow it out of proportion. Avoid catastrophizing. Your language will matter. Diba? Ay, nawawala yung USB ko. Lahat ng buhay ko nandun. Lahat ng mga files ko nandun. Oh my God, it's not the end of the world. Do not catastrophize. Your mindset, your perspective is important in containing the impact or the consequence of the adversity. Letter E has to do with endurance. The question here is, how do you predict this issue, this challenge will last? Huwag mo nang patagalin, mga ma'am, sir. It requires you to practice emotional fortitude. Ask yourself, how can I get through this as quickly as possible? Okay? Ako ngayon, yung challenge ko kahapon, I saw the report ng TPB. End of June, ang utilization rate namin ng pera, 19%. Oh my God, sabi ko, this cannot go like this. Bakit? It will impact on the absorptive capacity of the agency, correct? So, anong ginawa ko? Immediately, I sent a message to my MANCO members, please let us meet today. So today, after this webinar, I'm going to have a MANCOM virtual meeting. Bakit? We need to have strategies so that we're able to use our money. Di ba? Maganda yung problema namin, paano gumastos. Anyway, back to core. Ito po yung summary. Alam niyo ako, mga ma'am, sir, I printed this in a small paper, or you can write it, and it's in my wallet. So that when an adversity happens, I take it out. So parang checklist, no? Parang estampita. Checklist. Do I have influence over this situation? If I have control, to what extent am I stepping up to make things better? And yeah, am I catastrophizing? I am exaggerating. How big am I letting this issue become? And to what extent will I let this drag on? Or how fast will I cut? Diba? Will I stop this bleeding? Ganon. So yun po. Now, pang-apat na tayong bundok. This is important. For you to harness your adversity, you have to trailblaze as you trek. What does this mean? Minsan yung bundok, walang daanan. I hope some of you have climbed mountains. Ako, that's one of my favorite things to do outdoors. No? Hindi ko lang alam ngayon kasi medyo matanda na ako. No? Pero talaga nung bata-bata ako, like Mount Bonggao in Tawi-Tawi, I have climbed like 3 or 4 times. Pero the last time I climbed, ayoko nang bumalik. Bakit? Ewan ko ba naman, dito sa mga friends natin dyan sa Tawi-Tawi, nakakainis, sinimento nila yung hagdan paakyat sa bundok. Oh my God. It takes the fun out, di ba, of climbing. Bakit? Yun nga, you look for the path. And in adversity, in your context as education leader, sometimes there is no clear path. This is COVID, di ba? Sino ba namang country ang ever prepared for this? Even China, US, di ba? Yung mga Western countries, highly developed, nobody was prepared for this. So, we are all creating the way, the path, as we climb. O, di ba? Sabi ng staff ko, kasi as a leader, di ba? Ginagawa din natin yan. Tatanungin natin, nangyari na ba ito dati? Has this happened before? And if it has, so how did you guys act on this? Diba? Sometimes the answer to you is, hindi po, ngayon lang ito nangyari. O, ayan lang. So you have to create the way. If there's no way, create the way. This requires us to have this mindset shared by George Bernard Shaw when he said, I dream of things that never were and say, why not? O, diba? Why not chop nut? Pwede naman eh. So, yan, gawin natin. No? Gawin natin. Create the way. The fifth mountain, we have to pack light and pack Right. Kung tayo po ay aakit ng bundok, hindi po kayo magdadala ng mga sangkatutak na maleta. Kailangan meron ka lang maliit na backpack. You just bring in your travel, in your climb, the essentials. Iwanan nyo na yung pagkarami-rami yung baggage. Lalo na kung yung baggage po ay emotional baggage. Ang bigat kaya nun, ha? Medyo mahal po yon sa excess baggage. So, reckon, how do you decide which ones to bring? You have to reckon with the question, what is important to you? Your net worth, your bank balance, or your life worth? What are the essentials that you really hold important in your life? Ayan. Net worth. Malapit na to ha. Reminder, end of July, submission ng SALN. Makikita nyo yan. O yan, magkano ng net worth nyo. Pero yung life worth, this requires a more deeper reflection. Ano yung importante sa'yo? Ngayon, alam na natin lahat. Importante yung health. Di ba? You also have to value your values. Value in Tagalog means halaga. Correct? So kung halaga, ano yung pinahahalagahan mo? Sino yung pinahahalagahan mo? You don't want to climb bringing with you a team of the people na do not deliver, who are incompetent, who are not reliable. So, dapat yung values ninyo shared. Okay? Para masarap yung climb. Spend time for yourself. Yung me time mo at saka self-care. So, pack right. Be kind to yourself. Iwanan mo na yung mga hugot dyan. Mag-move on na. And always remember that time is a limited resource. Therefore, huwag nyo nang sayangin yung minute, yung seconds, the hours in your life. We only have 24 hours a day. Lahat tayo. Kaya ikaw si Gokong Wei, si Hansi, okay? Kaya ikaw si Obama, si President Duterte, lahat tayo 24 hours a day. Nobody was given. Si Mark Zuckerberg, 24 hours din yan eh. Pero alam niya gamitin the 24 hours that we all have in our days. How we spend our days is indicative of how we spend, how we live our lives. The sixth mountain is a reminder for us to suffer sensibly. Suffering is in four areas, four dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So parang ganun din, no? The four dimensions of people. This is a challenge for all of us. Your adversity, yung pinagdadaanan mo, dapat you make it sacred. You approach your challenge, your crisis with sacredness, with sanctity. How do you do that? Okay, tanongin mo sarili mo. What is it that pains you the most right now? What is your toughest challenge? Pwede rin po itong who pains you the most right now? Who is your toughest challenge? Baka sa tagal mo ng work from home, yung husband mo, yung wife mo, yun yung toughest challenge mo, di ba? Mag-away-away na kayo kasi araw-araw kayo magkasama. Who is your toughest challenge? Now, check your perspective. Is it one that allows you to see the suffering as a cup half full or half empty? It's important when you check perspective that you climb to the leader's balcony. Those of you who have second floor in your houses, di ba? May sometimes meron tayong terrace. Pumunta kayo sa terrace kung meron kayong problema. Imagine your problem, your challenge, your adversity na nakikita mo doon sa baba. Your perspective, di ba, will change. Kasi from above, di ba, the view is different. And one way to make your suffering sacred is for you now to make that suffering a tool, an instrument, so that you're able to help others. You are able to reach out to others. This is our last climb. You can print this on your own. I will share the slides as I mentioned. This is the Everyday Greatness Game Plan developed by Dr. Paul Stoltz to leverage on your adversity. Harness your adversity as an advantage so that you can become great. So yan, parang diary lang po siya. But the important also element here is the two last questions. You commit to get started on this plan by when, and the first step of this plan will be completed by a particular date. So again, hindi lang plano, but act on your plan. This is the last summit. And that's why I chose this mountain, volcano, Mayon volcano. Okay? I was born in a town at the foot of Mayon called Malinaw, Albay. Maray na aga po sa mga taga Bicol dyan. This summit, this mountain reminds us, okay, uh, one awesome way to be great is to always keep the attitude of gratitude in your heart. Why? Your attitude of gratitude as a leader will define your altitude. How high you will reach, how successful you will become, depends on the depth of gratitude that you hold in your hearts. So spread cheer, spread positivity. Ako, sa gabi, bago matulog, yan yung ginagawa ko, no? Parang, what am I grateful for today? Nako, Lord, thank you, it rained well. So, Lord, thank you for the food. Thank you for my kasambahay. Di ba yung, what are the things you also look forward to? And who are the people you want to say thank you to? Kahapon, I watched a brief video about saying thank you. Sabi niya, it's easy to say thank you. It's difficult to mean thank you when you say it. And it's doubly difficult to live thank you, which means you act on your gratitude. Again, your attitude of gratitude will define your altitude. And therefore, for you to be elevated to your altitude as a leader, you have to act on your thank you. As I thank you, genuinely, sincerely, the last two slides are favorite quotes of mine. One from my all-time favorite athlete, Michael Jordan. He said, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. O, di ba? Data-driven. Binilang niya lahat yun, ha, mga ma'am, sir. He said, 26 times I was given the ball. He was trusted to take the game-winning shot, but he missed. But he said, and this is a lot to do with bouncing back, with resilience, with adversity advantage. I have failed over and over again in my life. And that's the reason why I succeed. Our failures are instruments or tools hiding for us to become successful education leaders. This is my last slide, which is one of the 7 words last spoken by Jesus as he hung lying on the cross, dying for all of us. He said, it is finished. This word encapsulates to my mind the essence of harnessing adversity, elevating it, no? Harnessing it. So you elevate yourself and you elevate others. In Isaiah 53:5, we are reminded that Jesus was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. But by that death, by the stripes, by his crucifixion, by his suffering, we are all healed. And I hold on to that prayer and that hope in wishing all of us the divine protection through this crisis, that we may all remain protected and be healed. Kanina sa ating prayers sa umpisa, Lord, please heal our lands. Thank you guys. Keep safe, and I hope to see all of you soon. That's my last slide. Okay. So stop
Thank you.
sharing ako, ha.
Thank you.
Ayan. Okay lang ba?
Yes. Actually, we were able to have in just an hour and a few minutes. You gave us a glimpse of a 3-unit course in graduate school educational leadership, di ba? Yung
Kaya,
isang
ang hirap. Adversity ko talaga yun.
nakapsulites pa. Plus, thank you also for an online retreat, an online tour, and a career coaching activity all in one sitting.
Thank you.
Full for your expertise. Attorney, before
Thank
we
you
go
very much.
to open forum, I'll give you a few minutes to relax and breathe for a while. Mag-shout
Ay,
out,
relax ako. Okay.
i-shout out po natin yung ating mga audience na nag-comment po sa ating comment section para po
Okay.
malaman nila na tayo ay nagbabasa ng comments po nila. Sa mga audience po natin there in Zamboanga, buenas dias sa todos. Maupay nga aga. Good morning also to our friends in Rizal. We have friends in Cebu, in Pampanga, in Negros Oriental, Caloocan, Valenzuela, Quezon.
Wow.
Our friends from Makati, Baguio, Masbate, Quezon City, Iligan City, Mandaluyong City. Our friends from Biliran Province na since day one ay parating merong taga Biliran na nag-a-attend sa atin. Our
O yung
friends from
mga mountains ko kanina, nandun yung Mount Biliran.
Opo. And we also have
Yung
our
first mountain ko. Yeah.
Opo. In Albay, in Davao, Bulacan, Siquijor, North Central Mindanao, Surigao del Sur, Palawan, Cavite, Osamis, Marikina, Masbate. We also have our friends in Panay, Bukidnon, Misamis Occidental, Nueva Ecija, Agusan del Norte, Marawi, Batangas, Negros Oriental, Cavite, of course, our friends in Region 1, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, and Pangasinan. And attorney, we have our viewers from Indonesia and Europe.
Nagtagalog ako.
Ah,
Naintindihan nila?
siguro, mga Pilipino ito na kasama natin
Okay.
ibang
Hoy,
panig.
mag-iingat po kayo ha, mga kabayan.
Correct. Okay po. So, attorney, handa na ba tayo sa ating open forum?
Yes.
May,
Handa na ba sila?
handa na kami? Handa na po kami. Pero attorney, may isang message po bago ko makalimutan. Ipauna ko na po. Message po ni Dr.
Okay.
Shirley Rupis ng Mariano Marcos State University sa Lawag. Ito ho ay tanong at the same time, sa tingin ko, invitation na rin galing ho ng MMSU. Sabi ho ni Dr. Shirley Agrupis, what a lecture. Thank you so much, attorney. Can you visit us at MMSU Batak City?
Ang sagot ko dyan, kailan? Oh, di ba? When? Let's go! Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the invitation. I gladly take it.
Alright. Para naman makita ulit ni attorney yung ating mga wonders of the Ilocos region.
Kaya nga, Diyos ko, tourism pa naman ako ngayon.
Okay po. We can go to the next question. Attorney from Al Cameron Avila, ang question po ay, what is the relationship between and among IQ, EQ, and AQ for effective leadership?
Okay. Thank you, Sir Al, for that question. The relationship is that they are directly connected. No? All three. In fact, parang four yung diniscuss natin, di ba? Kasi may resilience quotient pa. So your IQ is here. What do we know? Our knowledge. And it's important na updated tayo. The EQ is in the heart, di ba? How we know ourselves, manage our relationships with others. The AQ is both IQ and EQ. Kailangan nasasabay mo yon, nababalansin mo yon. At yung RQ, resilience quotient, Sir Al, wag mo rin kalimutan. So, the relationship is that all the four are essential components for a holistic, di ba? A holistic, effective leader. Hindi pwedeng fragmented, hindi pwedeng partial development lang. Pag ikaw po talaga ay leader na gusto mong maging effective, you have to address all four dimensions. The IQ, the EQ, the AQ, and the RQ. Your overall resilience. Thank you, Sir Al.
Actually, question but a compliment from Bacolod City, the city of smiles. Halata, may mga smiley po sila. Thank you for a very empowering webinar from Riverside College, Bacolod City.
Wow. Thank you, Miss Christine. Di ba yung Riverside, parang that's a nursing school, is it? Kasi
Yes.
may hospital dyan na Riverside eh. Uy, mag-ingat kayo ha. Oh, so, take care. Thank you for the affirmation.
One of the top
Si Ma'am
performers.
Gina din.
All right, ma'am from Ma'am Gina.
Yeah.
Thank you very much from Ramon Magsaysay Memorial Colleges in General Santos City.
Thank you, Ma'am Gina.
Another compliment from Miss Marcela Elenzano. That's very educational. It reminds us what we must be and how should we be to our students and community. Thank you so much. Parang pansin namin ito karamihan ay compliment attorney ha.
Oo nga. Pero alam mo, sir, gusto kong saluduhan si Ma'am Marcela. Bakit? Sa comment niya, you can see that she is a person who is capable of reflecting. A reflective leader. Hindi lang siya nakikinig, pero nag-reflect siya, di ba? For her to say, reminder to ng paano tayo dapat mag-behave as leaders. So, that is another trait that we should develop. We should always reflect. Pause and reflect. Thank you, Ma'am Marcela. My salute.
Alright, thank you po. Ito naman po, another compliment from Ma'am Penelope Garcia Colisaw. Thank you po from ZSCMST of Zamboanga City.
Ah, ang haba naman nun. Ano yan? Zamboanga Sur College of... Ang haba ng acronym, ha?
Marie,
Dapat may quiz tayo dito. O, tingnan mo yan, sir. Hindi mo alam, ha?
Ma'am, ito po si Dr. Shirley Agrupi. Sabi ho nila we will move heaven and earth to bring you
O,
safely
diba?
to Ilocos. We will get in touch with you through CHED 1. We are safe here, MGCQ. Yan na po, ma'am.
MGCQ na.
Schedule sa Ilocos Norte.
O, sige. Oo, mga ano lang yan mga 10 to 12 hours lang naman yan, di ba? Nag-land trip. O, kasi
Land-
wala yung flights ngayon yata.
Maganda
Oo.
naman ang airport sa Lawag.
Bukas na?
From Ma'am Ilian Naloroque, how do you deal with co-workers who are not so responsive to your craft as a leader?
Okay. This is a very good question, Ma'am Ilan, kasi real, ano siya, no? Real challenge. When your coworkers are not responsive to your thrusts as a leader, maybe you go back to some things that you need to check on. Number one, were you able to articulate to them and share with them your vision for the thrusts that you have laid for your team? Ano ba yung pangarap natin? Ano yung dream mo? Dream din ba nila yon? You have to influence them to also share and own the dream that you have, the thrusts. Vision. Second, ano yung purpose natin? Kasi karamihan tayo sa government, no? Nakakalimutan natin yung reason for existence natin. Yung service, yung purpose to serve, to help others. Lalo na ngayon, alam nyo ba, we should be feeling so blessed kasi tayo yung isang sector sa society na kahit work from home, sumusweldo tayo ng buo. Di ba? Yung mga JO, kahit hindi pinapapasok, sumusweldo lahat. Dati, no work. So, ano po yung vision? Na-articulate nyo ba yon? Na-share nyo ba? Did they own it? Ano yung purpose? Alam din po ba nila? Third, you have to check for clarity. Clear po ba sa kanila yung role nila na dapat gawin? Minsan yung iba hindi nagre-respond kasi hindi nila alam kung ano bang role ko dito. Ganon, di ba? Yung iba bida, yung iba kontrabida. Okay lang yon. Kailangan din ng kontrabida kasi pag kailangan may critique, so we keep our toes. We di ba? We're always on our toes. So, check for clarity of roles. Kung klaro ba sa team members mo na meron siyang role na dapat gampanan. Vision, purpose, roles. VPR. Pag hindi pa rin yan, ma'am, sige po, usap tayo ulit. Baka talagang dapat may problema talaga yung mga kasama mo. Hindi ba? Yan. Thank you.
All right, ma'am. From Ms. Benzon Shisi, what do you think of retrenchment? Are there any other options that colleges can consider besides retrenching its employees?
Okay, good question. Ako, I'm wearing my Department of Labor hat. So, there are options by which to not let go, diba, of your employees. One of them is, dito po sa Metro Manila, some organizations, and this is something that the employees also thought of. Kesa mawala ng trabaho, nag-opt sila to have fewer hours or fewer days of work. Kesa walang trabaho, okay na lang na magbawas na lang muna ng days of work. For which, yung actual na ni-report mo for work, dun sila lang bayad. You don't pay them for the days if they don't report for work. So you don't retrench them. But you have to couple that with initiatives to retool or your skill those employees. Bakit? Nakakatuwa ngayon, ang dami na nag-online. Develop the entrepreneurial spirit. Yung isang pamangkin ko na teacher, dyan sa Nabwa National High School, eh ano yun teacher siya sa grade 12, yung laboratory tech, food tech. So yung mga ngayon siya, gumagawa siya ng siomai, nag-go-online delivery, no? So, meron silang additional or augmentation ng income. So, one way to not retrench is to restructure your work arrangements. Pwedeng shorter days, shorter hours, and then retool them so that they will have other sources of income. Diyan sa Landmark Mall, nagpunta ako dati, sabi nung sales attendant, ma'am, wala ako bukas ha, huwag kayong bumalik to return the item. Bakit? Twice a week na lang daw sila nagre-report. Ano ginagawa mo, kuya, the rest of the week? Ma'am, nagluluto ako ng ulam, tsaka rice, pinapack niya, at ang binibentahan niya, yung co-employees niya, no, ng lunch, para meron pa din siyang additional income. So, may paraan po, no? Salamat.
Right, thank you po, Attorney. Another question po. How to deal on leaders who stress their workers?
Pwede niyo po silang ipatawas. Di ba may tawas? Yung sa amin sa Bicol, ang tawag santigwar. Santigwar mo yan, tawas. No, seriously, no? Seriously. Naku, dapat pala separate session yun. Meron akong module na parang managing a difficult coworker, managing the boss. Okay. Nasi-stress kayo. Bakit? Kasi hindi aligned. Hindi ka aligned. Yung boss at saka ikaw, hindi kayo aligned. So how to deal with it? With the situation? First, tao rin yung boss nyo kahit visit yan. So kailangan, understand your boss. And you know what? Sa atin na lang ha. May pressures din yung boss mo, yung leader na yan. Kaya yan nag-behave na ganyan. May sarili siyang pressures. Understand your boss. Understand the pressures the boss is also suffering from. And then, tingnan ninyo ngayon. Bakit di ba? Kaya siguro pressured siya. Kaya siya din ganun mag-behave. Now, that is one element. The second element, may sarili ka. Understand yourself. May style ka din, di ba? Minsan, sutil. Mayroon akong isang manager na, hindi ko alam, she always has a way of saying, of getting to me, the way she speaks, parang pilosopo, yung mga ganon. So, means, baka ikaw din yun, di ba? May ganon. And then, you also have to understand your own pressures. Now, hindi ka pa boss So, kailangan, ma-understand mo yon. Uy, 1-hour session yun ha, managing the boss or managing a difficult leader. But, as I said, your boss, your leader, has his or her own pressures. You have to understand the style also so that mag-a-adjust din kayo ng style. So this also brings you back to emotional quotient, EQ, your self-awareness and your awareness of the other person and how you manage your relationship. Okay? Thank you. I hope I answered it.
Attorney, nabanggit ko rin lang po huwag ko kayo tatanggi sa amin kung invite po namin kayo ulit na i-discuss yung inyong nabanggit ng module kanina.
Gano'n.
Okay po. Ito po
Sure.
From Ma'am Ninette Del Padilla. How can we collectively institutionalize transparency in an HEI?
Oo. Parang mahirap na sagot yan. Ano na ba to? Pang finalist question? Top 5 na to sa Miss Universe? No. But I like the way the question was asked. How can we collectively institutionalize transparency? Because I like the word we. And so my own contribution, my modest contribution to that we as a collective effort for transparency, number one is to have systems in place that support open communication. Second, that open communication, you always have to remind yourself to use the simplest language possible. Okay? Number 3, mabalik tayo dun sa walk your talk. You cannot preach, you have to be transparent, pero ikaw, hindi ka naman transparent as the SUC president, as the HEI administrator. Diba? Walk your talk pa rin, ma'am. So there has to be systems that support open communication, the use of simple language to explain, uh, yung walking the talk, and as always, there has to be access. Transparency is not possible if we don't create the access for getting to the information. So ngayon, we are blessed to have social media, Facebook, Messenger, di ba? Maraming ways to communicate and to be transparent. And yon, real-time data. Kasi di ba ngayon, aminin natin, yung DOH, may credibility issue on the COVID statistics. Bakit? Nakakalit eh. That's why I said there has to be clarity and be simple in communicating the data or information. Thank you, ma'am, for that question. So, contribution ko lang yun, baka mas marami kayong alam na sagot.
Okay po, attorney. Another question po from Sir Milano Torres. How can we instill teamwork and collaboration to conventional leaders, especially when the boss has a certain level of superiority complex?
Oh, okay. Pag yung boss all-knowing, siya lang ang magaling, etc., suggestions and opportunities for collaboration. Ako, this is one practice I have done in my life. Pag ganyan yung boss that I have to deal with, I bring forth my ideas, not as suggestions or statements, but as a question. Di ba? So for example, si RD Galera, ganyan yan, di ba? Nagmamagaling, nagmamarunong, akala niya siya lang, porque PhD siya na, ganon. So kunwari, sasabihin ko, RD, sa tingin niyo po ba okay itong gawin natin? Di ba? RD, sa tingin niyo po ba this is possible? RD, sa tingin niyo po ba magbe-benefit tayo? So, surface your ideas, your suggestions as a question. Pangalawa, also still as a question, you let that conventional leader see the missed out possibility. And the two words you use would be, what if? Diba? Mr. President, Madam President, what if ito po yung gawin natin? Sa tingin niyo po ba? Diba yung what if? Bakit? The what if gives your leader, kunwari, siya pa rin yung may control doon sa decision. Correct? O, bakit ko alam yan? Yung mga teenager kong mga anak, ganun sila, di ba? Yung difficult, yung, mami, ganyan. How come you don't know that? Ganun, parang mas marami na silang alam. So ako, the way I will influence them, yan, thinking, what if, di ba? I said, Josh, what if ganyan? And then I also ask, sa tingin mo ba ganyan yun? So, akala nila sila yung nagde-decide. Pero actually, dun sa question mo, binigay mo na yung, na-limit mo na, di ba, yung decision-making room niya. So, yung conventional leader na yan, make him or her feel as if he or she still has control. Why? My last point on this. People who exhibit superiority complex are actually deeply insecure. That's a reality. Meron silang takot, meron silang kinakatakutan. Alam nila ano yung shortcomings nila. Alam nila yung weakness nila. But they're too proud sasabihin ko sana, they are too proud to be humble. Natural. Pag wala kang humility, hindi ka tatanggap ng opinion ng iba. So ipagdasal po ninyo yung mga tao na may superiority complex kasi malalim po ang inferiority complex niyan. Okay? Yeah. I hope that helped.
All right, attorney, this is a compliment from Ellen Maharanas. Thank you for the words attitude of gratitude. It is one way of humbling yourself no matter how pressure and stressed you are. God bless po, Attorney Allones from Malasiki, Agno Valley College in Pangasinan.
Thank you, Ma'am Ellen, for the blessing. And I send back the blessings to you. At huwag niyong kalimutan, the attitude of gratitude defines your altitude. O, di ba? How well we will succeed as leaders.
Ako po, attorney, alam nyo, ang dami ho naming natutunan, pero bitin pa rin kami. Kaya sa mga susunod na panahon po, ay expect po ninyo na mayroon na namang tawag sa inyo, si Dr. Mel. para kayo ay
No
maimbitahan,
problem.
maibahagi nyo po ulit sa amin ang inyong kaalaman sa iba't ibang larangan ng ating serbisyo publiko para sa lipunan. Sa pagkakataong ito po, Attorney, I would like to give you the floor once again for your final message for this hour for our audience, not only in the Philippines, but also in Europe, in Indonesia, and the rest of the globe.
Wow. International. Thank you, sir, Doc PJ. Thank you to the CHED Region 1 team and to all of us who welcomed us wherever you are right now for this conversation. This leaves me grateful for the affirmation that you've shared, grateful for the opportunity to share whatever little I have, harnessed also in my own life and career as a Filipino. And with this gratitude, I keep all of you in prayers and let us continue to pray for our country, for our leaders, and for actually lahat ng buong mundo kailangan natin ipagdasal. I am sure that this adversity is not happening in random. This must have been the best time for this to happen because God knows we will harness this to elevate humanity, to elevate humankind and the earth. Thank you, everyone. Keep safe and God bless.
Alright, Attorney, maraming salamat po ulit. At ito ho ay ang bagong next normal. We would like to award po sa inyo our virtual Certificate of Appreciation. Republic of the Philippines, Office of the President, Commission on Higher Education, Regional Office Number 1. This Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Attorney Maria Anthonette C. Velasco Allones, Chief Operations Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board in the Philippines, for her generous sharing of time and expertise as webinar speaker for the topic Resilience and Leadership in the New Normal during the Transitioning the Education Ecosystem in the New Normal, or TEENN executive session conducted on July 14, 2020. The insights she shared are truly significant to higher education institutions in not only in Region 1 but the entire globe in embracing the new normal in education and in forging instructional resilience and academic ano to, attorney ko makita, continuity
Continuity.
this 45th of July 2020 at CHED RO1, City of San Fernando, La Union, Philippines. Signed, Dr. Rogelio T. Galera Jr., OIC Director 4. Muli po,
Thank you. Dapat baguhin niya yung dulo. Dapat na yung last sentence. Given this 14th day of July 2020, virtually. Oh, di ba?
that's a new
Di
very
ba?
for us also.
Virtually, oh.
Attorney,
Thank you.
maraming
Tatanggapin ko.
sa ngalan po ng buo-buo dito po sa aming opisina. Maraming salamat po, Attorney Allones.
Thank you. Keep safe.
Okay po, dear friends, I know that you have learned so much and you share with us and we share with you the same ecstasy of gladness that we have heard from the expert Attorney Allones. Not only words of encouragement or words of inspiration, but also the challenges she presented to us. We must embrace them for all of us to continue the journey of making the Philippine education and the Philippine educational leaders worthy really of what it takes to be a leader in the new or in the next normal that we are facing right now. So, dear friends, of course, please let me remind you once again that we will be issuing e-certificates. And for you to be able to have your copy of your e-certificate, it is a requirement that you stay with us until this afternoon. Because this afternoon, we would be discussing about how did the city of Vegan, which is one of the new wonders of the world, was able to recover despite the pains of COVID-19 pandemic. And at the same time, today, this afternoon rather, we have invited the city mayor of Vegan City, Honorable Juan Carlo S. Medina, to discuss to us or share to us the challenges he confronted, and the way he was able to overcome these challenges to preserve and continue the life of this beautiful city of Vigan in Ilocos Sur despite COVID-19 challenges. And so, dear friends, before we end our morning session, we'll just have a lunch break and we'll see you again at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Please stay with us. And for those who haven't subscribed yet, again, I may sound like a long record, but please click the subscribe button in YouTube. That's Ched Regional Office 1, and click the like button in our Facebook page, Ched Region 1. At ngayon ako ay magsasalita ng ating pambansang wika bilang pasasalamat na rin po ng aming opisina sa lahat ng ating mga frontliners, hindi lamang po sa ospital, gayon din po sa lansangan, sa mga mall, sa palengke, sa mga establishments, bilang aming pagbibigay pugay sa inyong napakadakilang gawain para po sa ating bayan at para po sa lahat ng Pilipino, saan man ho tayo naroon sa alinmang sulok ng daigdig. Nais naming sabihin sa inyo na bagaman ang salitang salamat ay hindi sapat upang maiparating namin ang aming pasasalamat sa inyo, pero maraming salamat pa rin po sa lahat ng inyong ginagawa. Alam ho namin na hindi lamang po yan sa inyong pansariling kapakanan, bagkus ay para sa kapakanan ng lipunan at ng ating bansa. Para po sa inyo, ang isang kanta na inakda ni Ginoong Arnie Mendaros, ang kantang ito, Dakila Ka, Bayani Ka, ay alay po namin sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat po at makita-kita po ulit tayo ngayong hapon.
Inalay mo ang buhay mo para sa kapwa-tao. Mahirap man, tuloy pa rin ang laban. Iniwan ang tahanan upang paglingkuran ng bayan. Mapapagal sa di makitang bantay. Hirap ka, bayani ka, inasin mo ang hirap para sa iyong bansa. Ngayon ang iyong ito yung isip natin sa Dakila ka, bayani ka, Pilipino ka. Sa'yo, Ama, ingatan mong lahat sila. Silang mga nag-aalaga, kumakalina. Ano mang paniniwala, ano mang kulay nila, magkakaisa sa pagtulong, kaligtasan ng iba. Bayani ka, inasin mo ang hirap sa iyong bansa.